I'm Jim Padilla with Gain the Edge. I'm really excited to come to you with today's Edge Sales Power Play because I want to share something with you here that's going to hopefully change the perspective for you. You got to decide if you're going to implement and run on this here. So we've been blessed to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of sales results for our clients' campaigns, and we have seen hundreds of thousands of sales conversations. And there's a lot of things that have been revealed as what is. We don't typically teach you philosophy, theory, stuff we read in a book, although there's some great stuff in a lot of great books. We've had enough expertise, enough experience building sales teams and growing businesses that we've just seen stuff that works. And so what our perspective is to just share with you what we have done, what we have seen, what we know works, rather than trying to predict what we think will work. Good enough? Okay, so type in the chat where you're listening in from. Let us know which avenue you're dialed into. If you can, type in with hashtag Gain the Edge, and are you listening live or on the recording? And I would love to know from you really quick. Does everybody respond to you? What is your response rate? And I don't mean just like email. That's the obvious thing that most people come up with. When you reach out to people to get a conversation going of any kind, what is your response rate? Is it 20%, 50%, 90%, 100%? Hey, whatever the number is, it is. But I want you thinking about that right now. Go ahead, type it in the chat if you're there, if you're bold enough. But at least you need to know it. Make sure you have it written down. What is the response rate? And ideally, it shouldn't be an estimate. It shouldn't be, oh, my response rate is around X. It should be X. You should be tracking it. If you're not, start tracking it from 2 day forward, so that you actually know. Then you can say, hey, look, my response rate is 37%. And under what circumstances do those occur? But you got to have an idea right now. So because without that, you have really no way to know what activities that you need to be putting into place, because you don't really know the results and the outcomes of said activities. All right. So let's fix that. All right. So today's Edge Power Play, it's about the number one thing to say to get people to respond to your outreach. Are you curious? I'm guessing that's probably why you stopped by here, because you want to see what kind of madness am I talking about? Who is this fool who thinks he knows how to get people to respond? All right. So let me share with you a couple of quick things. And this perspective here, this is the question, right, that you want to be thinking. What does it take to get people to respond, to show up to you so that you get the conversations going that you need? Remember, knowing that you need conversations to be able to have qualified opportunities for your sales perspective. I want to share a quick story with you. Okay. I spent 15 years coaching high school sports, played baseball in college, coached high school competitive golf and basketball, was very blessed to be able to run with a program that was nationally ranked in AAU. And we were in the contention, in the titles for state championships with our teams. And there was a perspective of this. This is something that's relevant here. So dive in. We had to figure out what were we going to do to ensure that we had the best chance of winning. And it wasn't just about running the right plays and executing on all the right skill sets, although that's vitally important. We had to think through what's the number one thing that was going to make the difference, be the differentiator for us. We had world-class athletes. We were phenomenal athletes. We had phenomenal coaches, a great system, a great program and opportunities, but we're still dealing with humans, meaning it's a guarantee that they're not always going to do what they're supposed to do and not as often as we'd like them to. And we were dealing with teenagers, even more so, right? Any given day, they can be squirrely. Your best player can be nuts. Your worst player can be awesome. There's always things that can be going on. And so what we had to tap into was, what was the KPI of significance? What was the activity? What was the thing we needed to be able to control as much as possible? Obviously, you need to get more buckets, right? You need more points. In order to get more points, you needed to get more shots. But we had to think through what was the thing. And in high school, an average possessions for a girls' game is 55. So 55 possessions, meaning we get 55 possessions, they get 55 possessions. And everything that happens inside of that game, throughout those 55 possessions, if nothing goes off plan, meaning everything is perfect, which never happens, They come down 55 times with the ball and shoot it. And then we come down 55 times and put a shot up. And whoever makes the most wins. Although that's not, again, that's a scenario that literally never occurs. What we had to think through was how can we, if we get more possessions, we get more shots. How do we increase the possessions? We knew that more shots was the key. More shots. If we had more shots, not more shots than we have, more shots than the other team, not just can we get the most shots, it's how do we get more shots than them? If everything was equal, we had a really good chance of winning because we were world class. If we could tilt the scales in our direction, then we were all but guaranteed to win. And so I'm going to show you how this pertains to you and how this is relevant. So this is what I was putting together here for you. Okay, number one, you got to be really clear about the game that you're playing if you think you're going to win it. What game are you playing? We're not just playing the more score wins, right? The team that scores the most wins, obviously, but there's a lot of things that have to happen in order for that to occur. So what we did is we factored in, okay, more wins was going to be for us about more shots. If we could take more shots than them, darn good chance we were going to win every game because we were very good at that. Now, what was going to lead to more shots? More possessions. If we could tip the scales and get more possessions in our favor. So then we would shift, okay, what do we need to do to ensure that we could get 8 more possessions? If we can get 8 possessions, we go from 55 to 63. But in order for us to have 8 more possessions, they would have 8 less possessions. They would go from 55 to 47. So we would be up. If we had 15 more possessions than they did, unless we were awful and couldn't throw the ball into the ocean from the beach, or if they were world class and not shot out of their mind, those X factors, which are things that did occur, we were going to win the game because we were going to execute at a powerful level. So then we had to say, okay, what were the things that we needed to do in order to get more possessions? Well, we needed more steals. If we had more steals, we get a possession. We take a possession away from them, which leads fewer shots for them. If we could force turnovers, okay, yes, we steal, and then what can we do to put pressure on them to force turnovers, which would get us the ball? And if we won the rebound game, we had to make sure that we could rebound. So those were 3 things that we did. But what we had to figure out is how do we ensure what's one thing that could lead to all of those things? Okay, stay with me. Even if you're not a basketball fan, I think you're still tracking. Okay, what we figured out was defensive touches. Defensive touches. We were a very physical, hyper talented, athletic team, and we always wanted to get hands in the lane. And we started recognizing that if we could keep hands in the lane, it would force their passes to be 1 second slower or have to put a little bit of arc on it, right? So by the time they passed to somebody who's open and we had hands in the lane, then by the time they had to make an alternate the way they made their pass, and our defender could get there quicker. So by the time they got there, they were no longer open. Okay? Or they would have to take a shot off balance or create more space and shoot from places they didn't want to have to shoot. When they put hands in the lane, we started enforcing activities and they would be not in the same position they needed to be. And then we could also get more rebounds. Okay. So again, you don't have to be a basketball aficionado to track with this. What we recognized was we did the math, we tracked the numbers. We had a coach on the team whose sole job was to track defensive touches for the entire game, for every player on the team and for the other team. And we started recognizing that 28 was the number. If we could get 7 defensive touches per quarter, it would force enough alterations on the on the passing lanes and on the shots to allow us to get steals, turnovers, and more rebounds and get us to 63 possessions. We got 63 possessions. Typically, they were going to have fewer because, again, we turned those opportunities over. And so it gave them less shots and we win more games because we were already executing, and even it allowed us fudge factor. It allowed us to be able to be off track and still win the games. Why am I sharing all this with you? Not to walk you down memory lane of our experiences in winning championship high school basketball games, but it's really helping you see how I broke this formula down and why it matters to you. Because defensive touches became the game. If we got 28 defensive touches per game, we win. We win. What is it that you need to be thinking about? What's the metric of significance for you? Okay, so this is something that we need to be hypersensitive to. You need more revenue. right? You need more revenue, you need to make more sales, more conversions. What do you need to do to make more sales and conversions? You need more offers. You got to be making more offers. How do you make more offers? More presentations, more events, right? Masterclasses, events, workshops, more bookings. You get more people to book a call, more people to register for an event. Hey, these are the things that you want activity from. But what's the number one thing that's going to drive all of this activity? And what we have tested and looked at and tweaked and examined is the biggest factor of significance here. Your KPI of significance is responses. How many people can respond to your outreach? The more responses you get, the more presentations you get to make, the more people show up at your events and masterclasses, the more people will register for your events, the more people will register and book a call, more offers that you'll be able to make, which will lead to more conversions. Regardless of what your conversion rate is, more offers mean more conversions and more revenue. Are you tracking? Okay, so this is me making the case to you. Responses is the number one thing you need to be focusing on. Response rate of outreach. So now, what game are you playing? You're playing the game of response rate. Okay, type it in the chat. Response rate. Do you know what your response rate is? Do you know how many messages you need to send out to get one to back in? And you can put it on any platform. How many emails do you need to send out to get one to respond? Do you know how many Facebook posts you need to get somebody to message, or outreaches to get somebody to respond, to book a conversation? What are those things? And you have to have an idea what it is. There's no judgment. It's all just data and feedback. So once you know what those numbers are, now we can put things in place to start increasing them. But the key is, now that we know that the responses are the focus, then we focus on that as the KPI of significance. And now the game becomes, how do we get more responses? What are the things that we need to put in play to get people to respond? And I'm going to share in the next 20 minutes here, 15 minutes of what are the things that need to happen. Okay. How do we approach getting more responses? Do you want to know? Do you really want to know? I think you do. Okay. So the key objective here is, by the time we're done, you're going to have a really clear idea. You're going to know what not to do and what to always do to blow your response rates out of the water. Out of the water. Okay. You want to know how to get people to respond? You want to know what to say to get a response? Okay. You want to be thinking from this perspective. First strategy philosophy here. Number one, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, right? You've heard that. That needs to be leading up front. You need to be constantly sharing with them in your messaging that you care about them, the problem they're having, the experience that they're living through in their business, their life, their relationships, their marriage, whatever that thing is. Okay. And you have to be able to share, here's the problem, here's why it matters, here's why it matters to me, and here's what I'm hoping to help you with. Here's how I'm hoping you can receive this. Okay, so you want to be able to put those messages into play without using those specific words. You have to be able to convey that. So I'm going to share a few things that are themes. And the objective here is, you need to be having first principles versus tactics. Principles versus tactics. Okay, people come to me all the time and say, Jim, what did you say? What can I say in this situation? Or, hey, what should I have said here? And I'll be working through a scenario, and I'm really good at getting inside of your situation and being able to, once I know the core story and your brand and your message and your idea, I can always come up with the right theme, the right message, the right energy to be able to put into the situation so that people will engage and want to respond. And I'm fantastic at doing that for you, for other people. But people will step up to me and say, Jim, give me the words. And it's just coming out of me. I get myself into the right beingness, the right presence, the right state of mind. And then the words come out. And they'll say, what did you say, Jim? Let me write that down. I don't know what I just said. It just came out of me. But the thing that's really important is, I tell people consistently, it's not about capturing the words that I said, because my words coming out of your mouth isn't the guarantee of making something work. The words that you have inside of you that need to come out for people is the key. We can certainly help wordsmith it once it comes out so that it lands effectively. The key is getting you to the place of understanding who's the person you need to be in the right context, the right state of being, the right state of mind, so that the words you already know that they need to hear come out. So there's first principles that we want to work with versus the tactics, because you'll find the right words and the tactics here. Okay, so the first piece is I'll go ahead and do a quick screen share on this one for you. But from the first principles perspective, here's a few key principles to have in mind. One is you have to communicate to them about them. Okay, principles. Your messages need to come out about them. What are they doing? What are they experiencing? Who are they are? Talk to them about them. Talk to them about the frustration that they have, about not just these frustration, but that you understand the frustration, why it's there, and what is it costing them, right? They need to feel understood. It's principle. They also need to understand that you're world class at what you do, but not by you telling them and explaining to them. You articulate it by the questions, the power and the capability of the questions that you ask. Right? There's an old adage. My friend Adrian Boisel just mentioned it at our event here this past weekend as he was in doing the training. But a question well asked is already half answered. You have to be able to ask questions in such a way that it articulates and positions the fact that you know them better than they know them. You know their problem better than they do. You've been down that road and you know how to get out of it. You know how to lead people to a journey. Okay, there's an art form to that, but that's a lot of that. Most of that is about trusting yourself to show up as that expert and speak boldly and truthfully into their situation instead of describing it generally and vaguely. Speak very clearly about the problems you know that they're having and maybe are unwilling to admit. Okay, next, again, you need to stand out from others with how you know and care about them. How well do you know and care about them? Right? You show up in a way that says, I'm not just giving you vague general information, I'm giving you very specific information, and I understand what you need. I'm trying to give you valuable, actionable insights and intel and wisdom right now because you need it, and when you apply it, the game changes for you. Okay. Example, okay, again, I noticed you were doing this. This should be on the other slide. We'll get to it in a minute, but as an example, right? I noticed that you were up to. I noticed you have a book launch coming. I noticed that you've been on this amazing journey. I noticed that you've been getting some great new clients. Actually, I'd love to know more. I noticed. What are the things you've noticed about them? Anything that they put on social media is fair game because they put it there because they want to share it. So you don't ever want to feel like you're stalking people. You want to feel like you are acknowledging people for what they're sharing with you. Okay. First principles, keep stuff simple and short. First principles, communicate in native language to the platform. If you're texting somebody, don't send them 3 paragraphs. That's what you do in an email. If you're making a post, right, ask simple conversations. If you're reaching somebody in DMs, you speaking to them about them and only asking if there's something, giving them a reason to respond and give an enticing and a response that will give you the opportunity to send the next step. You don't send them all the things and a link. You ask them about their interest, about the problem, if that you have a solution, but they would be okay with you sharing it with them, right? There are baby steps. Communicate to the native language of the platform. If you're in text, communicate both via platform of what does text dialogue mean, which most of the time is like shorter abbreviated words, maybe emojis, short sentences, right? Phrases. You don't put perfectly choreographed sentences and paragraphs in text because that's not the native language and it comes across weird. Unless that's how you've always communicated with them, then there's nuance. Okay. Here's the other part. First principles. You need to give shape and nuance and direction to their thoughts. You don't need to just acknowledge their thoughts. You have to recognize that there's a hierarchy of communication, meaning you can say, yes, as a mom and as a grandma, I understand. As a father and as a grandfather, I can understand. Well, if you just say as a grandfather, I understand. Well, grandfather also implies father. Hierarchy of communication. Use less words and be more abbreviated and direct. Okay, nuance to their thoughts. I'll share another examples in a minute about how I can share what I say versus and in a way that says I understand it and there's a different way to think about it and there's a different reality waiting for you. Okay, the objective is to get a response. It's not to book a call. It's not to get them to register for something. It's to get them to respond. Any response will do. Let me share just a little side note for you, for all you for salespeople out there. One of the things that I see often, we all the sales teams we've run and hundreds of salespeople we've dealt with, people have an issue sometimes with the title or the label of the conversation. So be like, well, why did they position it as a coaching call? And now I got to go and coach them, and I got to give them something else that I don't want, or is positioned as a next steps call, like you're going to walk them through. We've had sales campaigns where the salesperson's role was to give them an orientation through the dashboard of the company's back office. It's literally 5 minutes. You walk them through the key things that they need, right? But the salesperson typically is way too focused on what that call is supposed to be or what it was labeled instead of just delivering service. Here's the number one objective. I used to work for a sales training organization back in 2008, and every single call we had was positioned as a coaching call. The objective was to get them to show up and respond. And we would show up and give them some coaching insight on the key thing that they were looking for as a response to why they booked the call, and then turned it into an opportunity conversation. Okay, it's a skill set. It's something you need to be able to do. The number one objective is to get them to respond. And then from there, you can have dialogue. Make sense? Okay, so stop tripping on what you call it and just be focused on delivering. Right. So let me share this part with you here. Okay. This one is going to be a little bit more stinging. I just showed a quick brief glance of that slide or that note there. I want you to understand this, and I mean this with all the best intention and love in my heart. Most of you are struggling. You are struggling with the conflict inside of you of trying to be something while trying to not give the impression of being that thing. Okay. As an example, we typically are wanting to show up. We're showing up having a features and benefits conversation. And one of the challenges you have is that you're trying to show up as the person who's having a features and benefits conversation and sharing about your product without feeling like that's the intention. We all have this triggered thing inside of us where we get on a call with somebody and we want to start talking about a product. We want to start talking about our features and benefits. And none of that is relevant. Nobody cares. Okay. The truth is, you need to throw this away, completely toss out the perspective of showing up to talk about your product, to show up as the person who understands them. That's your objective. What are the struggles that you're having? What are the things you're experiencing? What are the problems that you're having? What are the pains that you're dealing with? Right. So you want, in order to show up that way, you have to start that way with the communication, with the outreach. Right. So as an example, right, I don't say I can put a message in somebody's ear that says, it sucks not making sales every day. It sucks to not have revenue coming in consistently. Or I can say, imagine what life was like when you no longer have to deal with chasing leads and sales every day, because they happen by design. They happen because your business was designed that way. Now, obviously, I wouldn't, that's a longer sentence, but taking a thought, a perspective, a soundbite, put it in your head. Now, again, intrigue. You want to know more? Can I share more with you? Right? It doesn't require much. You just have to ask permission. Can I share more with you? Is this resonating with you? Are you open to hearing more? Is this something you're struggling with? Can I share something more based on what, and again, based on the conversation of that was started from the click, whether they clicked on an ad, a post, they responded to something that you offered and they downloaded. What is the next step in that logical scenario that you want to ask them a question about? Okay. The theme is no fluff, no muss. There's no introduction. It's not, hey, this is Jim with Gain the Edge. I'm wondering if you're struggling with your sales. The message is, imagine what it'll be like when you no longer have to struggle with chasing leads and sales. Or imagine how different your life is going to be when your business delivers sales on a regular basis instead of all of them being made by you. Right? Again, opening a conversation because something that preceded it was an opt-in, was a product, was a book, was a video, was something that led them that opened the door to this conversation that they had responded to. All right. So everything is focus. Okay. Here's a theme. I'll go ahead and share the screen with you on this. Okay, so here's some themes that you want to think about. Again, I'm not giving you the exact words. I'll share with you some examples in just a second. Okay, but this is a theme. This is not a quote. This is not a word. You can use this as words, but this is the flavor. Okay, this I get 100% open rate. I will tell you what, maybe I get 99.999 because there's been maybe one or two people over decades who don't respond. When I reach out to people, literally with these words, I was thinking about you and I had an idea. When can we jump on a call? I get incredible responses. Hey, Jim, that's amazing. That's great. Yeah, I'd love to know more. Now, of course, context. Is this something you send to somebody who was a complete stranger? Maybe not, because the context is out of place. With somebody who downloaded something but you've never met. Okay. But here's the theme and a flavor. What are the message that you can put to somebody? This is a home run. Feel free to take it, use it. I would love to know how it works for you. Copy it as is, and then also use it as a theme. What else can you send that tells them I was thinking about you and I had an idea? Okay. Next one is a theme. You have a problem that I'm very familiar with. How can you say that without using those words? Right? You have a problem that I'm very familiar with. Right? I know how to turn this chasing sales to having sales chase you. Right? Are you ready to get to a place where sales can chase you? Are you open to a conversation? And again, this is not a cold outreach. This is after somebody has responded to something. For us, that's a preceding conversation. Usually something they're going to respond to in our world is going to open the door to that conversation. Okay. But that theme always works. Okay. You and I have something in common. That's a theme. What's the way you can show up so that that is the theme that's delivered? Okay. These are themes in a journey. They're not text, they're not words. Okay. I've been where you are and I'm going where you need to go. You want to come with me? Your job is, you again, feel free. These words will actually work too, regardless of what your vertical is or what you're doing. Okay. Um, don't This is a separate piece. I don't know if I want to dive into this. I'm not sure why I put it on here. But don't spend too much time fighting battles that aren't yours. Okay. You don't have any less left for the ones that are. So don't try to solve big, huge problems out there with inside of each conversation thread. Focus on the problem that they came for and make sure you're showing them that you are here to help them fight this particular battle versus changing the whole world. You can change the world later once they come into your world. But right now, you got to show them that you know how to help them win with the specific problem that we're talking about. All right. Amen. So I already shared, some context for what this conversation line can be like, right? So imagine what it's like when you no longer have to deal with this. Right. I used to do some specific outreach when I was looking to do sales training all the time. That was my number one model. I used to 22 speaking gigs a month. And I would reach out to local sales teams and call the sales manager and say, Steve, who's the name of the person on your sales team that you should have let go by now, but you haven't because you like them? Every time that opens up a conversation. And I'm not explaining who I am. I'm not explaining what it implies. A conversation, a question like that implies I understand your pain. I know where you're at. I know what you're doing. And if I can help you turn that person into one of your top performers, can we have 20 minutes of conversation? I used that line every day for close to a year, right? Because it works, because I'm speaking something very specific about them, and it's about them. It's not about me. It's not me pitching anything, selling anything, sharing anything about me. It's literally me speaking into their situation and highlighting something that we both know they have a problem with. Okay, what are those things for you? I'm going to share just a few more examples right here for you, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. Okay. So we talked about what is the one thing that you need to be able to say? What's the one thing that you can say? You buy into the concept and the theme here that you need to get responses. This is the way to get them. Okay, here's some samples. I already shared some of the themes. Here's samples. You notice there's a lot of crossover, a lot of similarity. I was thinking about you and I had an idea. I know something you don't know. These things can be subject lines. This can be a text message. This can be a social media, Facebook message. I have tons of people we don't text or email. We do everything through Facebook Messenger because that's how a lot of people like to communicate. So I just roll with where they are. Okay. I know something that you don't. I know something that you don't know. Do you want to know what I know? These, again, I've used all of these and they all deliver world class results. Okay. Do you want to know what I know? Do you want to be the first to see it? Do you want to be the first to know it? Would you like to be the first one to do it? Again, have it, don't, this is not clickbaity, bait and switch stuff. Make sure you know what you're talking about. Would you like, because you've already, there should be something that has preceded this conversation. This is not about cold calling. This is about reaching out to people to who have taken an action and you are now getting them to show up, or people that you have some context or history with who've been following you, connecting. If they're following you and engaging you on social media, they're now more into a conversation. They're familiar with who you are. These themes work in you've used the themes and the specifics around this. It also works for cold outreach, because again, I told you that's how I sold sales training for a year. I just literally reached out and said, what do you know? Like, who's the person on your team that is? You need to think that through. It's your job to do that work. But once you have that, this is the flavor that you want. Okay. Do you want to be the first to see it? Hey, nothing is better than this one. Or do not miss this one. Right. I've got something for you, which is similar to, right? I was thinking about you and I had an idea. Hey, what should we do now? We've had some dialogue. There's been something there. What should we do now? Not, hey, let's jump on a call and talk about it. What should we do now? And this one, I'm actually going to steal from Jeremy Miner because I saw him do this on a video a while back, but it's same flavor, right? And I resonated with it. But after you've spoken with somebody, okay, I haven't received a response yet. Where should we go from here? Right. And again, question, generate response. Very short, very specific about them, helping understand that you get where they are at, right? You're delivering a message to them that says, I'm thinking about you, I care about you, I have an idea, we need to talk. But then you're putting the onus upon them to do something about it in order to get whatever the next piece of information is. And it needs to be singular. The more narrowly focused it is, the singular it is, those are the things that get the response. Hey, they work all the time. Hey, when you start saying it with confidence and shape the conversation specifically with the context and relevance to what they've done in the preceding action. Okay, this is something that somebody made a comment on a Facebook post. This is somebody who responded to something in your chat. This is somebody who downloaded something that you offered. This is someone who asked a question or you had a previous conversation with. Okay, these are intentionally designed for that scenario, but they will work in a cold scenario as well. But you just have you again, your job is to do the research, to put the onus is on you to make sure you understand that they understand the context of where this is coming from, because you're reaching out to them for a specific reason. If you're reaching out to this because they're just on your list or on a list or cold connections, then all bets are off. Okay, because that's not who you should be reaching out to anyway. Right. So I would love to know which one of these resonate with you the most. What's the top three that you want to try? Which ones are you going to put in place and when are you going to do it? Because I want to know. I want to hear from you. I want to know when it works. I want to know what kind of response you get, and then let me know, because I'll happily coach you through pulling somebody across the finish line to make that work. Nothing else can happen. You can't make more sales, so you make more offers. You can't make more offers until you get people to show up. They're not going to show up until they respond. Master getting the response. The art of the response is everything. You win that, you win the game. That's the game you're playing, getting people to respond. All right. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for trusting me to be part of your success team.